Hey everybody, good morning. This is Mr. Ainsworth. We're going to get into another review over all the methods of quadratics here. So get your calculator out if you need it. Get your lessons out from lessons 6.5 through 6.9. As you can tell, the lessons are organized, and I tell you where to look in your notes to get some help. So have your lessons out, have your red pen, and pencil, calculator, you name it. Here we go. First thing we're going to do is go to square roots. We're going to simplify them, but you need to factor the number first. So we're going to take 192 and start factoring it by dividing by 2. Use your calculator, enter in 192, divide 2, and let's work out the factors. 96. 96 divided by 2, 96 divided by 2, that's 48, right? 48. So you just keep on dividing by 2. 24 divided by 2 is 12, divided by 2 is 6, divided by 2 is 3, divided by 3 is 1. So you're done. Now you look for the biggest square. Find the biggest square number. Okay? So where is it? Well, I see a 4 here, 4 here, 4 here. 2 times 2 is usually 4. That's why I say that. 4 times 4 is 16, and 16 times 4 is, well, that's 64. And the only factor that we didn't use is that one, the 3. 3 times 64 is 192. So there are your factors. So you split the root, split the root, and here we go. Root 192 is root 64 times root 3, which is 8 root 3. That's all you have to do is you got to be able to get good at factors and or finding the factors and finding squares. A square times a square gives you a bigger square. 16 times 4 gives you 64, a bigger square. That's 8 squared. So you just have to know how to find your biggest square, and this process is easy. Like in this next one here, you don't need to do the factor table because I already know that 100 times 2 is 200, right? And I already know that 100 is a perfect square, so you don't need to do the factor table there. You just get 10 right too. Okay? So again, use your notes side by side, get some good practice, use your calculator, like I said, to help you with the division if you want to. Make it easy on yourself. All right, next one here, we want to solve by taking square roots. You want to isolate, okay, isolate your x squared, all right, then square root both sides. When you see a single variable like I see n squared here, there are no other variables involved, then you want to isolate it. Okay, so let's isolate. Let's divide both sides by 3. If you don't know what that is, once again, use your calculator. So 135 divided by 3, all right, it's 45. So you get n squared equals 45. Now you root. Okay, both sides, put the plus or minus symbol in because you're looking for two solutions. The square root cancels the square, giving you n is plus or minus root 45. But I know that 9 times 5 is 45, so root 9 times root 3, root 5. All right, is plus or minus 3 root 5. So again, you split the root. Every time you see a square root of a number which has factors that contain squares, well, split the root. On this one, you're going to subtract 5. You get m squared equals 44. You have to square root both sides. And you get m is equal to plus or minus root 4 times root 11. Because 4 times 11 is 44, right? And you get plus or minus 2 rad 11. So isolate then root. Step 1. Step 2. Isolate the square and then square root. That's how you handle all of these. In this section, that is 3 and 4. Next one, number 5. Open your notes to lesson 6.5, going back a long time ago. All right, and here in the factoring lesson, I say factor first. Okay, let me put the lessons or the steps down here. Okay, step 1, factor. Step 2 basically is set each factor equal to 0 and use the zero product rule. Set each factor equal to 0 and solve. That's your zero product rule, guys. All right, we know that if n times m equals 0, well, then either n has to be 0 or m has to be 0. That's called the zero product rule. So when you have a zero product, just set the factors equal to 0 and solve. So we got m minus 6 equals 0. M plus 3 could be 0 because, again, we have a 0 product right here. Something times something equals 0. Well, 6 would make this 0, so m equals 6. And here, all right, m equals negative 3. Over here, each one of these could be 0, so you have to set 2p minus 7 equal to 0 and 7p plus 3 equal to 0 and solve. And when you do, you get 2p equals 7. Divide by 2, you get p equals 7 halves. Over here, you got to subtract 3, and you get 7p equals negative 3. Divide by 7, and you get p equals negative 3 sevenths. So set each factor equal to 0 and solve. Easy. Especially when it's already factored, right? Now, if it's not factored, you got to factor first. So, you got to play the factor game. What two numbers multiply to 10 and add to 7? All right, and they are 2 and 5, right? 2 times 5 is 10, and 2 plus 5 is 7. So you got to split the middle term and use factor by grouping. So I'm going to split the middle term. Okay, I'm going to factor out an x. I'm going to factor out a 5 here. In the factor by grouping technique, the binomials are the same. So factor it out again. So you're going to have x plus 2 times a quantity, x plus 5. And now you have a 0 product. See, this is called a 0 product. And when that happens, you have to set each factor equal to 0. So you have to solve x plus 2 equals 0, x plus 5 equals 0. Here x has to be negative 2 because negative 2 plus 2 is 0. And since negative 5 plus 5 is 0, x equals negative 5 here. Now, if the lead coefficient's not 1, well, you got to multiply these, right? So 2 times 7, 14. So let's play the factor game. What two numbers multiply to 14 and add to a negative 9? So let's figure that out. We know that 2 times 7 is 9. They both have to be positive or both have to be negative. So negative 2 times negative 7 is positive 14. And when you add the two negatives, you get a bigger negative. So split the middle term. Here we go. 2a squared minus 2a. Let's see here. There we go. Minus 7a. Minus 7a plus 7 equals 0. Factor out a 2a. Factor out a negative 7. So negative 7 times a is negative 7a. Negative 7 times, whoa, that's supposed to be a 1 there. Negative 7 times negative 1 is positive 7. Notice how I just caught my little mistake there by checking, by distributing back through. You want to factor out a minus 1. Multiply it by the remaining terms, 2a minus 7. So 2a minus 7 here. Okay, now this is called a 0 product. Okay, so you set each one equal to 0, right? So you have a minus 7 could be 0, or 2a minus 7 could be 0. Here a has to be 1 because 1 minus 1 is 0. Here, add 7, and you get 2a equals 7 divided by 2. You get a equals 7 halves, or you can say 3 and 1 half. Okay? And that's all there is to do on the factoring lesson. Solve by factoring. Now, sometimes it's not factorable, like this one. I don't know of two numbers that multiply to 2 and add to 14, so it's non-factorable. So we're going to switch techniques. We're going to complete the square right here, and the first thing we do is we get the constant on the right. Look at your notes. Open them up to 6, 8. You can see the steps right there. So learn how to use your notes, right? So leave room to complete the square. 0 minus 2 is negative 2. Whatever you add on the left, you add on the right. So the question is, what is that square? Well, we know it's always b divided by 2 quantity squared, where b is the middle coefficient. So what in the world is 14 divided by 2 squared? Well, what's 7 squared? Well, it's 49, right? So I'm going to have to add a 49 on both sides. That's called the completing the square process. That's what I did, okay, right here and right here. So we want to factor now. Now we play the factor again. What two numbers multiply to 49 and add to 14? And they got to be 7 times 7. It's this number right here. So you split the middle term. Again, right there, I split 14x into 7x and 7x. 49 minus 2 is 47. Factor out a common factor. Factor out the 7. We're not done factoring yet, so we don't have a product. So factor out the x minus 7. Multiply it by the remaining terms and use the little factor by grouping as we've been working on for 3 weeks now. Didn't mean to write that. So now we rewrite it as one binomial squared because they're identical. And now we square root both sides because that's how you isolate the variable here. So the square root cancels the square out, giving you x plus 7 equals plus or minus rad 47. And that's prime, by the way. So I can't simplify it. Subtract 7, and you get x equals negative 7 plus or minus root 47. Now, if the lead coefficient's not 1, you need to make it 1. So lead coefficient must be 1. So make it 1. Divide, get creative, and divide everything through by 2. And you get x squared plus 6x plus 5 equals 0. Get the constant over there. So x squared plus 6x plus blank equals negative 5 plus blank. I subtracted 5 right there, guys. And then complete the 6 divided by 2 squared is 3 squared or 9. So we want to add 9 to both sides. And then factor. Two numbers that multiply to 9 and add to 6 are 3 and 3. So x squared plus 3x plus 3x. Notice how I split the middle term. Plus 9 is equal to 4. 9 minus 5 is 4. Factor by grouping. Factor out the 3. Okay, now you got to factor out the x plus 3. So x plus 3 times x plus 3 equals 4. Now notice here I multiplied it by the remaining factors there. Rewrite. Square root. And you get x plus 3 is equal to plus or minus 2. Subtract 3. Get x equals negative 3 plus or minus 2, which means negative 3 plus 2, or negative 1. It also means negative 3 minus 2, which is negative 5. So x is equal to two different numbers, negative 1, negative 5. Okay? Now, I'm going a little probably too fast, but you should have already done this, and if you haven't, then pause and play and rewind and do it step by step. Okay, the next thing is to open up your notes to 6-9, and let's use the quadratic formula. So let's put it up here. Negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, all divided by 2a. Here's your quadratic formula. And let's use it to solve. So I know a is 1, b is negative 12, c is negative 36. A is 1, b is negative 12, c is negative 36. So r now is equal to the opposite of b, so opposite of negative 12, plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is negative 12 squared, minus 4 times a, times c, all divided by 2 times a. There's your setup. Okay, now, hang on for a second. All right, so now what we want to do is simplify. So look for my double negatives here, and I see one here. So I get r is equal to 12 plus or minus the square root of 144. That's what negative 12 squared is, positive. Plus 4 times 36 would be 120, 144. Let's see, 120 and 24. Yeah, that's right. All right, all divided by 2. R is equal to 12 plus or minus the square root of 288, all divided by 2. I got to simplify the root here. So let me just check something here. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to simplify the root. So root 288. What in the world is that? I got to split the root. Well, I know that it came from 144 plus 144, so my factors are 144 times 2. So split the root and you get 12 rad 2. So this is equal to 12 plus or minus 12 rad 2, all divided by 2. Divide them all by 2. What happened here? Let me pause. Okay, you're going to love this. Okay, the first step in, I don't know how I know, so I'm going too fast here in my lesson because I'm in a hurry. The very first thing you need to do is set it equal to 0. So I'm going to have to fix everything. So set equal to 0 first. So I need to change everything here. So I'm going to get my big eraser and change everything. Okay, everything that I said has to be changed. So let's fix it. We're going to have to subtract the 9 first and set equal to 0. Because I didn't do that, I was going too quickly. And then this is a good lesson to learn here, is not go too fast, right? Okay, so here we go. R squared minus 12r. And let me see, these now are 0. Now the right side 0, and you get minus 45 here equals 0. Okay, so now here's A, here's B, and here's C. So A is 1, B is negative 12, and C is not negative 36, it's negative 45. So let me do it right this time. So here we go. R is equal to negative of negative 12 plus or minus the square root of negative 12 squared minus 4 times A times negative 45 now, all divided by 2 times 1. Here we go. So R is equal to negative of negative 12. I'm going to look for my double negatives. I see one here. I also see one here. So just like I said before, but modified a little bit, I get 144 plus now 4 times 45, which is 180, divided by 2. So now I get 12 plus or minus the square root of, this is 324. Ooh, that's a nice number. Divided by 2. Watch this. The square root of 324. Square root of 324. It's 18. 18 squared is 324. So you got to simplify the root. And that becomes 12 plus or minus 18 divided by 2, which means two things. Okay, it means 12 plus the 18 divided by 2. It also means 12 minus the 18 divided by 2. This is 30 divided by 2, or 15. This is negative 6 divided by 2, and it's negative 3. So R is equal to 15 and negative 3. Okay? Okay. One more. It's a good thing I caught that, especially since it's a video. On this one here, quadratic formula time, so A, B, and C. Oh, that's not true either, because we have to get this equal to 0 again one more time. Check this out. You got to set equal to 0 first. Okay, how do you do that? Well, you add 10. So let's do it. So you got v squared plus 6v, negative 25 and 10 minus 15 equals 0. So here's A, here's B, and here's C. So in this case, A is 1, B is 6, and C is negative 15. So in this case, V is equal to opposite of B, so opposite of 6, plus or minus root 6 squared minus 4 times A, 1, times C. C is negative 15. All divided by 2 times 1, because A is 1. What do we get? So V is equal to negative 6 plus or minus square root of 36. I see a double negative here, so cancel it out. 4 times 15 is 60, so plus 60 all divided by 2. That's negative 6 plus or minus the square root of 96 divided by 2. So now I've got to simplify this. Root 96. So square root of 96, what's that? So let's see, factor pairs. Factor pairs for 96. So let's see here. Let's use a calculator, right? Why not? Okay. So 96 divided by 2 equals 48 divided by 2 equals. I better do this up here. So 96 divided by 2, 48 divided by 2, 24 divided by 2, 12 divided by 2, 6 divided by 2, 3 divided by 3, 1. I see 4 here, 16. This is 2 times 3 is 6, but it's not a square, but it's a factor. 6 times 16 is 96. So square root of 16 times 6, root 6, 4 rad 6. So we have to change it. Negative 6 plus or minus 4 rad 6, all divided by 2. Okay, so what's v? Well, let's simplify, right? Divide them all by 2. So you get negative 3 plus or minus 2 rad 6 over 1. Okay, which is negative 3 plus or minus 2 rad 6. Which is what they got. Okay, there we go. So just remember on the quadratic formula that you better set equal to 0 first. Okay? We should probably highlight that. Okay? Make sure you do that. And again, this is a video, so if I go too fast, don't worry about it. Rewind it. Okay? Listen to it a few times. That's all you have to do. All right, so practice like mad. All right, repeat these problems as many times as it takes for you to get them down. And I'll see you in my next lesson, as I always do. This is Mr. Ainser signing off. Bye-bye.